In this series of reading on the marriage line, the lines of attachments, these are the lines of attachments. This is the line of marriage. There are various different kinds of it. I'm just going to talk about two different types. This one, where the lines are running parallel, very close by, and the second is where the line of attachment is kind of branching out at the very start. This is basically the starting point, and it branches out at a very early age, and not at a very late kind of age. So, few lines could be something like this, and the branch is somewhere out here. This is different from this particular line that you see. And one of the authors mentions that this kind of line might indicate that the person might have tendencies related to bisexuality, and it might not mean that the person might have two love interest or two different partners, but it could mean that the person is bisexual. But uh, in my practical experience, I have not experienced this kind of a thing, because people do not come, very few people basically, they come up and tell that they are bisexual or not. So I can't correlate it, but because some authors said, that's the reason uh, I kind of like wanted to show this particular video. As far as this particular line goes, where two lines are running parallel, uh, and they are nearly of equal length, then possibility what happens is that the person might not have any other love interest apart from the marriage, but it is kind of a affection which is not there yet. It is there in this particular person's life. The person just imagines it, and in real it might not be actually be there. It might be just a person has got uh, some idea regarding his partner, like how the partner should be, so he's just kind of just imagining it and not in real. But sometimes it also might mean that the person has got a love interest, and the person doesn't marry that particular person, and just after some times he kinds of meet another person, and they marry just after a small breakup. It could be after a small breakup, the person marries another person, and the other person whom uh, he or she marries is of like the relationship is going to be good, provided these lines are of good quality. They shouldn't, well, like kind of, it shouldn't be something like these lines are cutting each other, something like these. It shouldn't be there. Simpler lines are always better than having simpler lines are always better than complicated kind of lines. Smaller lines are always better than long lines. Long lines not necessarily are good. There are a few books where it mentions that a long line, there is a possibility that the person might marry a very known kind of a person, uh, because the line is reaching the mount of sun. So mount of sun is basically for name and fame. So people think that they might marry a very famous person. Not necessarily, it might happen. It is just a possibility uh, that uh, uh, what I make out is that a long line might mean that the person is deeply in love with the other person, and it might weigh down on him, like it might create stress for him. So a simpler, smaller line is always better than having a long line and something like this. Just a short kind of a line is okay. That's good enough to have a good married life. You do not need to have a very long line. Long lines are generally not considered are basically rare and not considered to be the best, and they are they would be certainly bad. They would be certainly bad if these lines are kind of leaning downwards towards the heart, and this is the heart line. So if it leans downwards, it is not good. And if these lines are kind of curving upward towards the fingers, these line of attachments, it is considered to be good. It is kind of that particular emotion, that particular relationship might lift this particular person up, and the person might gain. Opposite, if the lines are leaning downwards, it is kind of going to stress this particular person. Uh, Imagine this is to be the head, the fingertips to be the head, and this is the lower part of the body, the sexual organs, and when it's leaning downwards, so the person is like kind of only leaning towards the sexuality part, but when it's kind of upwards, there's upliftment, like the it takes you towards the higher goal and not necessarily only sexual thing. So that's it for this particular reading. If you like the video, click on the like button and do subscribe to my channel. Bye and take care.